Welcome to the Civic Hub. The Civic Hub is a shared community space for grassroots and small nonprofit organizations working to make lives better for everyone in Waterloo Region. Partner organizations come from a range of fields: environmental justice, democratic reform, arts and culture, anti-poverty, anti-racism, human rights, ethno-cultural and newcomer support, technology, peace and nonviolence, spirituality, and well-being. On the show, we welcome one of our partners to the Civic Hub. We have with us in the studio Ayiko Solomon from Peace for All Canada. Ayiko, welcome to the Civic Hub.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here.
Yes, it's wonderful to see you here. You're with an organization called Peace for All Canada, which I hadn't heard about until I met you. Can you tell me about it?
Yes. Again, I thank you and I thank our audience and the community as a whole to have this opportunity to be here and to shed little light on Peace for All Canada. Peace for All Canada is non-for-profit incorporated organization, and actually just been incorporated almost 2 months ago. And the idea emerged from my immigration idea to Canada, which way back to 1999. That's when I just immigrated to Canada. And I remember it was still very, very cold and it was freezing. And I was wondering how I'm going to live in this kind of weather.
Because you're not from a northern country.
Not at all. We're from Eastern Africa. So, but over the 20 years, I experienced so much positive things in Canada. But equally also experience so much challenges in Canada. Challenges that I believe many people from lower income that are going through. Challenge that people from newcomers, to Canada that are experiencing. So I didn't want to be passive victim, and I wanted to be, a part of instrument that can contribute to positive change to our community. So the idea of Peace for All Canada comes about. So by the name, I wanted to see and peace that for across cultures, across communities, peace that can bring health to the mind and body and soul, peace that can address some of the safety and security issues that we are experiencing, whether from the crime in our community, whether from the religious-based conflicts or hatred messages, or from race. So, I wanted we, as a families, as a communities, to be driving center in addressing those issues. So that's where Peace for All Canada idea came from.
Right. And even though you've only had Peace for All Canada incorporated for 2 months, it's an organization you've worked with informally for a long time.
Yes, thank you very much. So informally, indeed, we have done much, in addressing some of these issues. For instance, that the issue of the newcomers that are foreignly trained professionals, whether doctors, engineers, and lawyers, that are coming here, and many of them lost hope to regain, and use those experiences once they used to perform. So we thought we can come together as international trained professionals and have a dialogue to see how we can change, this unpleasant experience that many of internationally trained professionals are having. So we began to engage with the newcomers, and we began to explore outreach opportunities that may be helping us toward reaching our desired goals. But it's most importantly, it also becomes a support group that keeps our spirit alive. So that while most of us, if not all of us, are indulging in survival jobs, at least also we know that we are working together toward a path that can enable us to do what we love, what we desire to do, where we think we can contribute much more into our community. Another activity that we are doing with Muslim children. And today we are aware that we're living in a very poisonous environment where a religion can be misused as an instrument of polarizing our community, and can be used as an instrument of inflicting terror and fear and violence in our community. But also, we know for certain that the essence of religion in general are there to bring people together, are there to bring celebration of humanity together, are there to bring safety and security in our community. And so Peace for All Canada is engaging with children through football. So as I mean, because I love football. And so through football, we want to reach out to those kids before the wrong groups, before reaching to them, before the wrong people reaching to them. We wanted to help them to retain the innate, instinct of peace, of love, and of living together as a community. So we do that with children within KW community. The third project that we are doing is engaging communities in addressing issue of the racism.
Right.
And it's fortunate that if you can look back since I came to Canada in 1999 in today, I see the poison of racism, and it's increasing so rapidly in scope and speed. And unfortunately, it's also encroaching into our democratic systems and institutions and so on. And that's something is not Canadian, And me as a Canadian citizen, I have a responsibility to play a role.
Yes.
And that's a dialogue we're having within us as immigrants, new immigrants, but also with other fellow citizens that we need to confront this. And we cannot only wait for institutions to confront this. And so the anti-racism dialogue from bottom up, from the community, is another project that we are doing.
Right. And racism, it isn't just races that are being antagonized. It's people of different religions, people who are coming with different economic status to Kitchener-Waterloo. It's a whole spectrum of things that are not peaceful.
Yes. And one thing about the poison of racism that we often think on is the physical part. And we rarely talk and think about the cultural part of racism,
right?
The structural part of racism, and we not being directly engaged in racism, we may think that we're not racist. We think that we're not part of the group that are racist. But so through this dialogue, we challenge ourselves whether engaging or disengaging in racism is contributing to somebody to benefiting from racism or not. That's the question that we are asking. But not only asking question, but what can I do as an individual?
Yes.
to change this culture.
Taking action, as well as recognizing the problem in the first place. It's taking action once it's recognized.
Absolutely. And we can do it at individual level, we can do it at family level, and as a community. And that is, we can do it through offering ourselves, especially for newcomers who may be searching for a job. And newcomers, let's say, I've been here for 5 or 10 years. Sometimes I feel even I'm a newcomer, when I confront some of those challenges. And so we offer ourselves to educate those newcomers that our community has so many opportunities, but have these kind of challenges, such as racism. So that sometimes the problem may not be your resume. Sometimes the problem may not be your cover letter. Sometimes problem may not be your network building.
Sorry. The problem is
yeah. Sometimes may not be how you build your network. Sometimes it just some individuals are racist. Sometimes some systems are racist. So, and sometimes because in the culture and the structure. So being aware of that is very important, so that you don't victimize yourself, believing something is wrong with me. After I moved here to my new community. So those are the difficult dialogues that we're engaging in, but with positive and motive, that non-violently, both at physical and communication level, that we together want to change this.
Right. So you're offering support to those people who have been subject to racism, who have been subject to exclusion.
Yes.
But you're also providing education to those who may, without even knowing it, enable that kind of discrimination, that racism.
Exactly.
Yeah. You've been doing this for a long time. You were doing this in Africa too, weren't you?
Yes. Excuse me. I often see myself as a wounded healer.
A wounded healer.
A wounded healer. And because at age of 6, I have experienced the inhumane part of a human being. The mistreatment of somebody in a negative way because he is from another race. And that's what I experienced as a child. That's what I experienced for at least 17 years. So, and that's why I came to Canada, in 1999. And so many opportunities that I received after arriving to Canada, from education, to engage with the civil society, and took me back, because realizing that there's still more children are suffering like me, when I was a child. There's still many mothers left behind in Africa, in particular in my home country, and that are experiencing the same hardship the one I went. So in 2006 and 2007, I used to mobilize my fellow citizens in Canada here, in particular from the Laurier University students. And so we used to go to East Africa, in particular Uganda, Kenya, and South Sudan. And we engage in community-based peace-building activities. We worked with the disadvantaged women, in those who are staying in internally displaced IDP camps. We work in creating microeconomic projects that can empower them to at least to offer food on the table, that can empower them at least to provide access basic health care for them and for their children. We also created a project that to educate non-violence peace engagement activities, from using music and songs and drama and community dialogue. So, and that is the actual experience that today I'm bringing back into Waterloo region.
Right. And how did you get involved with the Civic Hub?
So first, I sincerely want to thank the partners at Civic Hub, because it's an amazing environment, an amazing community, and perfect community for me to be part of. And because I'm aware that the complexity of issues that I want to confront, as an individual, whether it's racism or violent extremism, extreme poverty, those issues that are so personal and mean so much to me. I knew I needed to have a community. I needed to be part of a community that share the same concerns.
Right.
And not only at emotional level, but both at intellectual, reflective level, but also a community that actively engage in searching for ways in addressing those issues. So that's how I was drawn to Civic Hub. And since then, I think there is it's a history. Through that engagement, I was able to show or share with the community that what I'm doing, and was able to find the support that I'm looking to. I was able to relate and learn about other activities that wonderful activities, whether about the environment, that other groups are working on.
Right.
So that's how I joined the Civic Hub, and I'm glad I'm part of it.
Yes. You're hosting a set of, I want to call them workshops for lack of a better vocabulary, on anti-racism. We had a meeting here a couple of weeks ago, the first of what I hope to be our many workshops on raising the awareness on the self-realization of where racism exists in the community. Can you tell us what your goals are for that?
Oh, thank you very much. And I don't know where to start from. Again, this is actually a classic example of what Civic Hub is offering and can offer. And again, I want to illustrate racism is pandemic in our community.
Yes.
And one thing that I hope through Civic Hub we can collectively address is that people's power in addressing this racism, reclaiming people's wisdom that has been stripped away because of institutions, and whether educational institutions or system that we have that took the power away from the community. The wisdom of our elders, that used to guide us not only intellectually but also spiritually, that used to motivate us to have a positive character. And so our engagement here at Civic Hub is an opportunity for us to at family level, at a community level, to not only discuss what is it that in racism that is so embedded in our daily lives, and whether at cultural level, at cultural structural racism. That's what we are talking about. But again, as was alluded earlier, we also want to be self-reflective, because an individual may think, I've never said something racist, or I never did a racism act, does not necessarily make you guilty or unguilty from racism.
Right, right.
So not being engaged in racism or disengaged in racism activism or activities may not be the healthy environment where you and I want to be in.
Yes.
So therefore, in this engagement with Civic Hub, I hope, one, we can begin to consciously build relationships among individuals, among families, and communities, particularly white and black communities at grassroots level. At the same time, we also need to engage in reflective thinking about the system itself, and pushing into the level of what can we able to do, just at community level,
right?
And which including the advocacy, so we should be able to reach out to collect the daily stories that people are suffering from racism.
Right.
We need to collect those stories and shed light on.
And we need to change our own practices, our own behavior, and this is something that you hope to instill in people so that they can go out and talk to their neighbors, not just people within the Civic Hub,
Yes.
who are probably of a like mind already,
Yes.
but to go out and talk to those other work colleagues and neighbors and friends you meet on the street, to have those skills within you to be able to approach the subject.
Yes, yes, indeed. I'm glad you highlighted that, because it takes extreme wisdom, extreme spiritual strength, and very reflective mind to come from the comfort zone, to say, I'm going to reach to my neighbor, I'm going to reach to my colleague, I'm going to reach to that stranger to address this issue.
Yes.
And where to start from and how to start from. Those are the dialogue that we, a Civic Hub, I hope we can engage in.
Yeah. I think there's a danger that approaching those people who themselves may not believe that there is any sort of Canadian racism or racism within themselves, approaching them on that topic is likely to offend them, likely to drive them away.
Yes, and the wisdom tells us we always start from the within.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind there's so many like-minded in this topic, and some whom we know, but maybe we did not consciously engage to them. We did not reach into them.
Right.
And that is the I think the invitation that we can offer. That those who are like-minded, please and come join the table of the dialogue. And knowing that we're gonna share real stories. Some may be painful, and but together we're going to create safe space for sharing. Together we're going to create support group for one another, but also together we're going to create a space that allow us to relate into deep experiences and allow to come out. It's only when we're able to voice those painful memories and painful concerns that we can begin to build a community.
Right.
And it's also believe that human beings are innately human.
We're all human.
They have the which mean they have the innately the spirit of caring.
Yes.
The spirit of want to be safe, want others to be safe. The experience of want to share the happiness and celebration of beauty like others.
Yes.
So, and it is the culture, the one we find ourselves into the system that was built around us, and it is us to find the ways how to confront it.
I think you've just described what humanity is. So. Coming up in the near future, you have some other workshops, you have some other events taking place here at the Civic Hub. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, and one of concern that are deeply into my heart is the idea of misusing the name and the culture and the tradition of religion as instrument of division, instrument of inflicting pain, terror. And I, as a Muslim, and I would like to offer myself in first place, and to change that narrative, And so I'm hoping to begin first in place to engage with my Muslim brothers and sisters in a dialogue or reflective dialogue in terms of how can we revive and sustain the beauty of Islam in terms of building relationships. And that's why one of these football activities are inside the mosque.
At the mosque.
At the Kitchener Mosque. And so the idea of neighborhood. For example, if you can read back to the Islamic tradition, and we know that the angel Jibril used to advise the Prophet ﷺ about neighborhood, and he said until his last moment was dying, the angel Jibril was advising the Prophet about the neighborhood, and Prophet said, this angel keep advising me about neighborhood until I thought the neighborhood, the neighbor is going to become inheritance of the family. And for me that speaks so much. Imagine if I as a parent instill that spirit to my child, to my daughter, that your neighborhood, your neighbor is have special place,
right?
In our home, and I wonder how my child will relate to the neighbor's child.
Our neighbors, our family.
Our family.
Yes.
And that is something that the dialogue that I want to encourage, not only at parent level, but with the youth in particular. And in particular, I really want to engage in Muslim and Christian dialogue.
Because you see tension between those two religions.
I see growing tension. I see, and just one example. One day, I around evening time, I was wearing what you call jalabiya or casual, and walking. So somebody was driving the car and saw me and said something that's very offensive. Of course, if the person knows who I am, most likely he will never dare to say something like that.
No.
And but that's because of lack of knowledge. And so for us and for me in particular, I think we need to confront these challenges again at the grassroots level. But most importantly, I want to be the example for my daughter and my son, example of a Muslim that is loving, that is caring, that's a good neighbor.
Yes.
And an big example of a Muslim that is so responsible citizen. And I want my daughter and my son to see me as a father that is caring for others,
Yes.
regardless who they are
And
how they are.
funny thing is, I think those very same values exist in Christianity. They exist in Judaism. They exist in Sikhism and pretty much any other religion that I can think of.
And those are exactly you're right. Those are the values that we need to revive.
Yes.
And there's a practice that we need to make sure they are in our daily life, not only when it comes to dialogue, but daily, but consciously.
Yes.
We need to work on them. So while so some of those activities is while engaging with Muslim youth in addressing these issues, I want to be engaging with the Christian youth to addressing these issues. And so to challenge a Christian youth, are you at daily basis living those values? The one and Jesus, may peace be with him, brought or taught? I also want to challenge the Muslim youth. Are you living with those values, the one Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught? And then bring them together and
Yes.
And challenge them and dialogue. And what part that we can do better.
Yes.
They can do better.
And if you're doing it with youth, they all have the common love for football, so you have
Yes.
something to bring them together
Yes.
to
Yes.
start that dialogue,
Yes.
to start that teaching, that education.
Yes.
You have something happening on the 21st of March here at the Civic Hub?
Yes, 24th of March, we're going to, how to say it, open our second dialogue.
Your second dialogue.
Yeah, to deal with again with the issue of the racism.
Mm-hmm.
And again, maybe let's start with reaching out for everyone that concern of issue of racism.
Yeah.
Everyone who is concerned about his children going outside there, that because of racism they may be negatively affected.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone that want to be instrument of change, that on 21st of this month of March, and we're going to start the second dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
and that place you come. And when you come as an individual, as a families. And I think is important that we come as a family, because if we don't change as an individual, as a family, we can't even dream to change the community.
That's right.
Let alone we can't dream to change the system.
That's right.
So let's come and ask difficult questions. Am I racist as Ayiko Solomon? You know, am I breeding racism at my family? You know, at daily day, am I engaging in even intentionally in a way that may be racist?
Yeah.
My disengagement, you know, about racism concerns can make me racist or not?
Yes.
So those are the questions, and what is really my desires about this topic. So so we wanted to come together again as individual, as a family, and to ask these questions. But again, and in attempt to see what are the practical things that we can come up together.
Yes.
That we can be able to do it without the funding from the whatever federal
Right.
or that. There are some things that we can do, of course, and we hope on the long way we'll be able to access some of the funding that can easy us to do these things.
Yes.
But we cannot wait and until we lose somebody or somebody gets hurt because
Right.
of
Then it's
racism.
too late.
Yes.
We've missed our opportunity to provide the education to prevent those things.
Yes.
Yeah. How can we get a hold of you, Ayiko?
And I can be reached via email,
Uh-huh.
and which is peace, light, hope, number 1 gmail.com.
gmail.com. And you have a website?
Yes, and so it's still under construction. Keep my fingers crossed. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be ready. But it will be at www.peaceforallcanada.org. peaceforallcanada.org.
Excellent. Go have a look there and come to the Civic Hub on March the 21st to participate in an anti-racism workshop to learn how we can expand our family in anti-racist ways. Thank you, Ayiko Solomon, for coming to the podcast today, and welcome to the Civic Hub.
Thank you very much, and for hosting Peace for All Canada here. Thank you.
You've been listening to Welcome to the Civic Hub, where we welcome community partners to the Civic Hub. The Civic Hub is online at civichubwr.org. You can reach the Civic Hub by email at info@civichubwr.org or by phone at 519-579-3800, option 3. Welcome to the Civic Hub is produced at the studios of CKMS FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo and airs Fridays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The show is sponsored by the Social Development Center of Waterloo Region. The executive producer is Alexander Petrovich, and my name is Bob Jonkman. Some funding for the Civic Hub is provided by Heritage Canada through the Community Support, Multiculturalism and Anti-Racism Initiatives program. The theme music is A Good Bass by Kumiko from the Free Music Archive and used under a Creative Commons CC0 license.